Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at a real paradox of modern history. How the Soviet Union, this huge military superpower on the outside, was actually dying a really slow, terminal death from the inside.
Exactly. And we're focusing on that specific period, the era of stagnation.
Sometimes called the Age of Lead.
Right. Roughly from 1964 to 1985.
Our mission today is to unpack how this happened, how a system just decays.
Well, under Leonid Brezhnev, the main goal was stability. Predictability above all else.
So no rocking the boat.
Don't rock the boat. It created what's called a gerontocracy, basically, ruled by old men, and it was all designed to protect the nomenklatura, the party elite, and all their perks.
Okay, so for the elite, it's about security. But what about for everyone else?
For them, there was this unwritten, very cynical social contract.
It's a famous joke, right?
That's the one. We pretend to work and they pretend to pay us. It really sums up the whole era.
So where does this eternal rot really begin? I assume the economy.
It has to. The whole thing was run by Gosplan, the state planning committee.
A rigid command economy.
Incredibly rigid. And, he was brilliant at building things like tanks and steel mills.
Yeah.
Heavy industry.
But not so good at, say, shoes or bread.
A spectacular failure when it came to efficiency or just basic consumer needs.
And there's that perfect anecdote that illustrates this, the problem of the nail.
Yes. It's the best example of this kind of thinking. A factory manager's job wasn't to make useful nails.
It was just to hit a quota.
Exactly. So if the quota was measured by weight, he'd make a few giant, useless spikes to meet the tonnage.
And if it was by number?
Then you get millions of tiny, tiny tacks that are good for nothing. The plan was met, but the product was complete economic nonsense.
But what's incredible is that this dysfunction was hidden for almost a decade. How did they keep the lights on?
Oil. It was a temporary lifeline. Global oil prices shot up in the 1970s.
So they had a sudden influx of cash.
A huge influx of petrodollars.
Yeah.
And they used that money to import grain and consumer goods, basically just patching the holes in the system.
Until the oil prices crashed in the early 80s.
And suddenly the rot was exposed for everyone to see.
So with the economy crumbling, what was happening to the ideology, to Marxism-Leninism?
By the 1980s, it was a dead language. A complete formality.
So no one was actually reading Pravda and believing it?
No. Real life was about shortages, about waiting in queues. But, and this is important, that vacuum created an opening for resistance.
You're talking about Samizdat.
Self-publishing.
Yeah.
Exactly. People would secretly retype forbidden books, essays, poems.
Keeping another version of the truth alive.
It was a crucial intellectual and moral lifeline.
And then on top of all this internal decay, you get a massive external drain.
Soviet-Afghan War started in '79.
A bleeding wound, both in terms of money and morale.
Absolutely. It shattered what was left of the national faith. And the truth of it, the real cost, started filtering back home.
Through that military code.
Cargo 200.
The code for the zinc-lined coffins bringing soldiers home.
It became impossible to hide that reality forever. It just destroyed any remaining trust.
Which brings us to the final spectacle. After Brezhnev dies in 1982.
The parade of funerals. It's almost darkly comic.
Yeah.
The gerontocracy was so broken.
That they buried 3 leaders in 3 years. Brezhnev, then Andropov, then Chernenko.
The system couldn't even produce a healthy leader, let alone govern. It was this public failure that really forced the party's hand. They had to find someone younger.
And that's when Mikhail Gorbachev steps in March 1985.
That's right. He inherited decades of this crippling inertia.
Yeah.
Economic, political, and, moral debt that had finally come due.
So for you listening to this, the core of it seems to be about belief, or pretending to believe.
The system institutionalized lying, from the factory floor with the problem of the nail.
All the way to the battlefield, hiding the human cost with codes like Cargo 200.
So the provocative thought we want to leave you with is this.
How much did that simple daily requirement, forcing everyone to pretend, ultimately rot the very foundation of trust?
So that when reform finally came, there was nothing left to hold the system together, and it just crumbled.